You know, Michelle Obama, she has faced more unearned, ridiculous, weak, and jealous insults than virtually anyone else in our country. But this week, she walked onto a stage in Chicago and opened a monument, an $850 million presidential museum on the south side of Chicago. And the crowd that she helped welcome more than a decade after she and her husband left the White House included Bruce Springsteen, Stevie Wonder, Bono, John Legend, Jennifer Hudson, and 3 former presidents of the United States. Meanwhile, Trump was left with just what, Vanilla Ice? And Michelle, she called that library a monument to Americans' unshakable values. And then beautifully, she did slip in one quiet, surgical jab at the Nobel Peace Prize that a certain someone has been begging, literally begging, to win.
You were doing the people's work, rescuing our economy, expanding health care, ending a war, ordering the bin Laden raid, saving an auto industry, winning a peace prize. Keeping us safe from Ebola, regulating the banks.
And her husband, Barack, without ever once saying that person's name, torched the entire MAGA project as a collection of people who fell for the idea that everything is about money and attention and fame.
We've got a set of institutions that have fallen victim to the siren song of everything's about money and everything's about attention and everything's about fame and everything's about getting over. But meanwhile, there are just a lot of people out here who are just doing the right thing and raising their families and taking care of people.
And friends, looking at those two people in Chicago, they show you what class looks like, especially in steep contrast to what we saw on the other side of the political spectrum during that tacky UFC fight at the White House. That event that was put on just so that Donald Trump could celebrate himself on everyone else's dime. And after one of those fights, we saw it, that heavyweight named Josh Hokett grabbing the mic in front of Joe Rogan and the whole country and used that big moment to repeat a disgusting line about Michelle Obama being a man. Bigoted sewage. And that sewage has floated around the internet for years. And this guy scooped it right out of the bowl and flung it right on the people's lawn. And you would think that the White House would condemn those comments. And yet the president's own spokesman, asked directly, said only that the fighter showed toughness. On Fox News, Greg Gutfeld was begged by his own co-host just to say that the man should not have said it. And Greg refused. All he did was simply call that fighter a troll. And on his own Truth Social at 6 a.m, sleepless on the flight to the G7, Donald Trump posted a long, gushing recap of the UFC night. He named that fighter. He praised that fighter. He even praised the weather, and yet never addressed the actual disgusting insult. I mean, this thing got upside down on Trump. Lindsey Graham called the fighter an idiot. Even Dana White, who hit his wife in public, the UFC boss who built his entire life around worshiping Trump, said that he hates that kind of nonsense. But for Trump, the reason he can't condemn it is the most damning part, because he has spent years pushing these Obama conspiracies, and he's the one that shared that AI video casting the Obamas as apes and refused to apologize for it. He is one of the primary offenders of hurling slurs like this at a dignified family. Why? Because he knows that he will never draw the admiration of so many like the Obamas do. And by the way, about that UFC fight, the MAGA sphere, they're trying really hard to overinflate the popularity of that UFC match. Joe Rogan was on his show claiming 150 million people watched, more than the Super Bowl. The problem with that is math, because there are only around 60 million Paramount Plus subscribers on planet Earth, and I'm sure that's being generous. So even if every subscriber watched, which we know they didn't, Joe Rogan and the MAGA sphere, they're around 90 million short of the numbers that they're claiming. But that aside, I want to leave you with two competing images. On one side, you got the White House. It was turned into a tacky scene from Idiocracy, and a fighter delivered a horrendous slur that our own president can't even find the gumption to condemn. And on the other side, a woman, a strong woman, a dignified woman, stood on a stage in Chicago, surrounded by 3 presidents and half of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and introduced us to a monument to unshakable values. I love that. And do me a favor, because there is a little controversy here, leave me a comment. I know that the Obama legacy, it's a complicated one, and there's part of me that's not a huge fan of some $850 million museum to a former president. But I've got to admit, that thing looks like it might do a lot of good. Looks pretty cool. So let me know what you think in the comments below.